There is a bottle of ketchup in nearly every kitchen in this country, sitting in the refrigerator door, bought from the store for $2 or $3, and inside it is mostly tomatoes, vinegar, sugar, and a little spice, things that cost pennies, thickened and bottled and sold dear. And what is more, that bottle is full of more sugar than most folks would ever guess, and a long list of other things besides. I am going to show you today how to make your own ketchup from scratch, richer, fresher, and far better than anything in a bottle, out of tomatoes, vinegar, a little sweetening, and spice made on your own stove with as much or as little sugar as you please. And the reason this homely thing has slipped out of so many kitchens is the same as ever. There is good money in selling a man a bottle of cooked down tomatoes for $3 again and again, when his own kitchen and his own garden glut of tomatoes would make him something finer for pennies. Here is the truth about ketchup that the bottle in the door would rather not dwell on. Ketchup is nothing but tomatoes cooked down thick with vinegar for tang, a little sweetening, salt, and some spice. That is the whole of it. People made it at home for generations. It was a fine way to use up the great glut of tomatoes that comes on all at once in late summer, cooking them down into a thick, keeping sauce for the year. There is no secret in it, and nothing you cannot do on your own stovetop. The store has simply taken that old, thrifty, penny-cheap sauce, loaded it with sugar, bottled it, and sold it back to people who have forgotten that the tomatoes overflowing their garden, or a few cheap cans, and an afternoon at the stove would make them a ketchup richer and truer than anything the bottle holds, sweetened just the way they like. My name is Amos Miller. I am Amish, and I farm here in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania. And when our tomatoes come on heavy in the late summer, more than we can eat fresh or put up whole, making ketchup and tomato sauces is one of the ways we use that glut and waste none of it. Cooking the tomatoes down thick with vinegar and spice, putting it up for the year, a sauce of our own on the table instead of a bottle from the store. It is one of the most satisfying ways there is to turn a flood of summer tomatoes into something that keeps and serves all year. And I am going to give you the whole of it today. I am going to show you how to make the ketchup from fresh tomatoes or from cheap canned ones, how to cook it down and season it to your taste, and how to keep it. I am going to be honest about the keeping and a real safety matter, because tomatoes and putting up have rules I will not skip. And there is one thing, one step that nearly everyone is too impatient for, that is the whole difference between a thin, watery, sad ketchup and a thick, rich, glossy one that clings. And it is the easiest step of all, requiring no skill, only patience. Stay for that part especially. Here is what you need, and it costs almost nothing, especially in tomato season. You need tomatoes. A good quantity, for they cook down greatly. Ripe garden tomatoes in their glut, or cheap canned tomatoes or tomato sauce out of season. You need vinegar for the tang and the keeping. You need a sweetening, sugar, honey, or the like, as much or as little as you please. You need salt and spices, and ketchup is flavored with warm spices like onion, garlic, a little allspice, clove, cinnamon, mustard, however you like it. And you need a pot and your stove, tomatoes, vinegar, sweetening, salt, spice, and a pot. That is the whole of it. And from a garden glut, the tomatoes cost you nothing at all. Now here is that one step everyone is too impatient for, the whole secret of a thick, rich ketchup. So listen close. You must cook it down slow and long, far longer than you think, to drive off the water. Here is why. A tomato is mostly water, and ketchup is thick. So to get from one to the other, a great deal of water must simmer away, and that takes time. A long, slow, patient simmer, stirring now and again so it does not catch, until the watery tomato has reduced down to a thick, glossy sauce. The great mistake of the beginner is to rush it, to cook it a short while, find it thin and watery, and give up or pour it out. The answer is always more time on a low simmer. It will thicken if you let it cook down far enough, even if that takes a couple of hours. The patience is the whole trick, and it asks no skill of you. Just let it simmer low and stir it now and then while you do other things, and watch it slowly become thick and rich. Slow and long is the secret, and almost everyone quits too soon. So here is how you make it. If using fresh tomatoes, wash and chop them. You may cook them down and then put the sauce through a sieve or food mill to remove the skins and seeds for a smooth ketchup, or peel them first. If using canned, you are already most of the way there. Put your tomatoes in a pot with chopped onion and garlic and begin to simmer. Once they have broken down, sieve them smooth if you wish. Then add your vinegar, your sweetening, your salt, and your spices, and now begins the long, slow simmer. Cook it down, low and patient, stirring now and again, for an hour, 2 hours, however long it takes, until it has reduced to a thick, glossy ketchup that mounds on a spoon. Taste as it goes and adjust. More vinegar for tang, more sweetening to balance, more salt, more spice, until it tastes right to you. When it is thick and the flavor is full, it is done. Cool it and put it in clean jars or bottles. Now, I must be honest about the keeping and the safety, because tomatoes and putting up have real rules, and I will not gloss them. The simplest and safest way to keep your ketchup is in the refrigerator, in a clean jar. Made that way and kept cold, it keeps a good long while, for the vinegar and the cooking help preserve it, and you simply use it from the cold like the store bottle. If you wish to keep it on the shelf without refrigeration for the long term, that is canning, and tomatoes are a special case there. Tomatoes sit near the line between high acid and low acid foods, so safe shelf canning of tomato products requires following a proper, tested canning recipe with enough added acid, added vinegar or lemon, and the right water bath processing, because improperly canned low-acid food can grow botulism, a poison you cannot see, smell, or taste, and that can kill. So, for ease and safety, keep your ketchup in the refrigerator and use it up over the weeks. And if you mean to can it for the shelf, follow a tested recipe with its proper acid and processing exactly. Do not guess. Also mind that the hot sauce will burn and that it spatters as it thickens, so stir with care and a long spoon. Keep it cold for ease, can it only by a tested recipe, and mind the hot spatter. Keep to that, and your ketchup is safe and good. Now let me give you the deeper part, the seasoning and the variations, because once you can cook tomatoes down thick, a whole world of sauces opens. The beauty of homemade ketchup is that you control the sweetness. The store bottle is very sweet, but you can make yours barely sweet, or tangy and savory, or spiced, however your family likes. Far less sugar than the bottle if you wish. Vary the spices. More clove and allspice and cinnamon for an old-fashioned spiced ketchup. More onion and garlic for a savory one. A pinch of cayenne or some hot pepper for a hot ketchup. Smoked spice for a smoky one. And the same cooked down tomato base, seasoned differently, gives you far more than ketchup. A tomato sauce for pastas and dishes, seasoned with herbs. A barbecue sauce with more sweetening and smoke and spice. A tomato soup base. A salsa with peppers and onion left chunky. Master the slow cooking down of tomatoes, and you can make the whole family of tomato sauces from your garden's glut. each to your own taste, none of them ever needing the store. Let me give you the troubleshooting. If your ketchup came out thin and watery, you did not cook it down long enough. Simmer it longer, low and patient, until the water is gone and it thickens. If it was too sweet or not sweet enough, adjust the sweetening to your taste. This is the great freedom of homemade. If it was too sharp and sour, add a little more sweetening to balance the vinegar. Too flat, add vinegar and salt. If it tasted flat overall, it wants salt above all, then more spice. If it scorched and tasted burnt, your simmer was too hot, or you did not stir. Keep it low and stir now and again. If it was grainy or full of skins and seeds, sieve or mill it smooth next time. Nearly every trouble is too little cooking down, the balance of sweet to sour, or too little salt, and all are easily set right by taste and patience. Let me say a word more about the thrift and the season of it, because that is the heart. In late summer, the tomatoes come on all at once, more than any family can eat. They ripen by the basketful, faster than you can use them, and much goes to waste in many a garden. Making ketchup and tomato sauce is one of the very best ways to catch that glut and turn it into food for the whole year. A flood of free summer tomatoes cooked down into jars of rich sauce for the winter table. And reckon the cost? A bottle of ketchup runs $2 or $3. Your own, from garden tomatoes, costs almost nothing but the vinegar and spice and an afternoon. A family that puts up its own tomato sauces from its garden wastes nothing and buys nothing and eats better besides. That is the old kitchen wisdom. Catch the season's flood, put it up, and let the summer feed you through the winter. Let me tell you more about working from a garden glut versus from cans, because each has its way and both are good. In tomato season, when your own vines are giving more than you can eat, fresh tomatoes make the truest ketchup. But they are mostly water, so they cook down a great deal, and you need a good big pot full to end with a few jars. This is exactly why it is the perfect use for a glut when you have tomatoes to spare by the basketful. You wash them, chop them, simmer them soft, and run them through a sieve or a food mill to leave the skins and seeds behind, giving you a smooth tomato pulp to cook down. Out of season, or when you have no garden, cheap canned tomatoes or plain canned tomato sauce make a fine ketchup too, and save you much of the cooking down since they are already concentrated. So do not think you can only make this in late summer. The garden glut is the thriftiest path, costing you nothing for the tomatoes. The cans are the year-round convenience. Either way, the method from there is the same. Season it and simmer it down thick. Let me say more about the sugar, because it is one of the best reasons to make your own. The store bottle is surprisingly sweet. There is a great deal of sugar in commercial ketchup, more than most folks would ever guess, and for many, that is more sweetening than they want or than is good for them. When you make your own, you hold the sugar in your own hand. You can make a ketchup with only a little sweetening, letting the true taste of the tomato and the tang of the vinegar come forward. You can sweeten it with honey instead of sugar. You can leave it tangy and savory rather than candy sweet. For a family minding how much sugar it eats, this alone is worth the making. A ketchup that tastes of tomatoes rather than of sugar, sweetened exactly as you choose. The bottle gives you one fixed, very sweet recipe. Your own pot gives you the ketchup your family actually wants. And once folks taste a properly tomatoey, less sweet homemade ketchup, many find they can never go back to the cloying bottle. Let me give you a fuller sense of the family of sauces this one skill unlocks, because the cooking down of tomatoes is the foundation of so much. The same pot of smooth cooked tomato, seasoned and simmered different ways, becomes a whole pantry of sauces. Lean it savory with herbs, basil, oregano, and less sweetening, and it is a pasta and pizza sauce. Push the sweetening and the spice and add a little smoke, and it is a barbecue sauce for your meats. Thin it and season it gently, and it is the base of a tomato soup. Leave it chunky with peppers and onions and a squeeze of lime, and it is a salsa. Cook it down even thicker, and it is a tomato paste to keep. So the afternoon you spend learning to cook tomatoes down into ketchup teaches you, in truth, to make nearly every tomato sauce your kitchen will ever need, all from the one cheap, generous fruit that floods your garden each summer. That is a great deal of the refrigerator door and the sauce shelf, all from tomatoes in a pot, never needing the store again. Let me add a word on the spices, since they are what give a ketchup its character and the old recipes guarded theirs. The warm baking spices are the soul of a good ketchup. A little allspice, clove, and cinnamon give it that deep, rounded, old-fashioned flavor that the plain bottle often lacks. Onion and garlic give it savor. Mustard and a touch of celery seed give it brightness. A whisper of cayenne or hot pepper gives it warmth. The old way was to tie the whole spices in a little cloth bag and simmer it in the ketchup, then lift it out at the end so the flavor steeped in without leaving bits, though ground spices stirred in work fine too. Start gentle, taste as it cooks, and add more, for the spice deepens as it simmers. This is another freedom the bottle denies you. A ketchup spiced to your own family's liking, mild or warm, plain or richly spiced, rather than the one fixed flavor the factory pours for everyone. And let me leave you with the plain reckoning of it. A bottle of ketchup costs $2 or $3 and is mostly cheap cooked tomato and a great deal of sugar. The tomatoes from your own glut cost nothing, and the vinegar, sweetening, and spice are pennies. A family that makes its own from the summer's flood spends almost nothing, wastes none of its harvest, controls its own sugar, and eats a finer sauce besides. Set against that, the steady drip of dollars for bottle after bottle, year on year, and you see again the same quiet truth we keep meeting. The homemade is cheaper and better both, and the only thing the bottle truly sells is the forgetting. Now, I want to take a moment, because this is the part that matters. Think about who profits from the bottle of ketchup in your door. Ketchup is, at its heart, cooked down tomatoes with a little vinegar, sweetening, and spice. One of the cheapest sauces a kitchen can make, especially from a garden glut that would otherwise rot. And yet, it is bottled and branded and loaded with sugar and sold for $2 or $3, bought again and again without a thought. The whole arrangement depends on people forgetting that this sauce was once made in every kitchen from the summer's overflow of tomatoes, that their own garden or a few cheap cans and an afternoon at the stove would make them a finer ketchup, sweetened to their own liking, for pennies. There is no money in a family that cooks down its own tomatoes into sauce for the year, so a thrifty old kitchen craft was let slip away and replaced by a sweet bottle, not because the homemade was worse, it is richer and truer, and you control the sugar, but because there is good profit in selling pennies of cooked tomato for dollars, a bottle at a time. So here is what I want you to do, come tomato season, or with a few cheap cans today. Put tomatoes in a pot with onion and garlic, cook them down, sieve them smooth, add vinegar, a little sweetening, salt, and warm spice, and then simmer it low and long, patiently, until it is thick and rich and glossy. Taste it, adjust it to your own liking, and jar it for the cold. Spread your own ketchup beside the store bottle and taste the difference and reckon the cost. Once you have made your own one time, you will catch every late summer glut of tomatoes and turn it into a year of sauce, and that bottle in the door will be the last one you buy. Tell me in the comments below. Have you made your own ketchup or tomato sauce, and how do you spice it? And did your mother or grandmother put up the summer tomatoes into sauce for the winter? I read every single one of these, and the old kitchen ways you all share are the reason I keep doing this. Next time, I am going to show you how to put up your tomatoes and the rest of your harvest properly in jars that keep all winter on the shelf. The water bath canning, done safely and right, so your sauces and your harvest last the year without the refrigerator. It is the natural next step after you have made your sauce. Until then, cook it down slow and patient. Sweeten it to your own taste, keep it cold, or can it right. And remember, the people who built this country with their hands knew things we are only just starting to remember.